I don't think it's a controversial point to state that the most important investment that we can make for the future of our society is an investment in the education of our children. The belief is fundamental to the Jewish tradition, whose educational tradition is as old as our history. As it says in the Torah, and as we recite twice daily to emphasize, set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. Teach them diligently unto your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk on your way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Compulsory teaching, incumbent on the father in the first instance, is ordained in the Torah as well in the book of Deuteronomy. Compulsory school attendance was decreed by Shimon ben Shetach in 75 BCE and by Yehoshua ben Gamla in 64 CE. But the educational principles of Judaism also found their way into the educational thought of Christians and Muslims too. Even the Book of Mormon, in 3 Nephi, quotes Isaiah's prophecy, who relates the time of the Messiah to a time of education, quoting, V'chol banayich limudei Hashem v'rav shlov banayich. All thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. I thank Elder Conrad for sharing that with me. But you do not have to be particularly religious to see the benefits of an educated society. Study after study shows that individuals who are more educated are healthier, more likely to get good jobs, pay higher taxes, less likely to participate in risky behaviors, and more civilly and socially engaged. An OECD report on the benefits of early childhood education found that the benefits to society include higher voter rates, reduced costs to the healthcare system, savings in welfare costs, reduced costs to the criminal justice system, increased rates of volunteerism, and because more educated people are more socially engaged, increased feelings of safety and trust. And education has the power to liberate in a way that nothing else can. And in our time we have seen the way the dignity of women and the poor and other marginalized people has been helped just by providing them with a good education. Rashi, the great commentator on the Bible, stresses the crucial importance of education in his commentary offered on the first verse of this week's Torah reading, the reading we just read from, Parashat Emor. The first verse in our reading was, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, God said to Moses, Emor ala Kohanim b'nei Aaron, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, Ve'amarta aleihem lenefesh lo yitama bi'amav, and say to them, let none of you defile himself or a dead among his people. If you notice, the verse says the word say, the amarta, 3 times. Say, say, say. Why does it say so many times? Asks Rashi. Emor ve'amarta. It says it once and says it again. Lehazhir gedolim al haktanim. So that adults may be warned to emphasize the important obligation to educate children. Education is repetition. Vishinantam actually does not mean teach, it means repeat. Say it again and again. If education is such an important value for Jews, and for all of us who want a better future, we should be paying attention to the growing advocacy for change in education policy across North America. The momentum has been particularly led by advocates for school choice, who believe in granting parents increased access to alternatives in public education. In the United States today, 32 states, as well as Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, have school choice policies, with many enacting legislation within the past year. Although the programs vary in scope, they all seek to establish or expand private school voucher and education savings account programs that give families public funds to pay for tuition at private schools, or cover the cost of homeschooling, or pay for other schooling expenses. Most notable among these programs is legislation recently passed in the state of Florida. You may have heard of it, where Governor Ron DeSantis is making vouchers worth about $8,500 each available to all kindergarten through grade 12 students, regardless of family income or whether a child has ever attended public school. An announcement that was greeted exceptionally favorably by those in the Jewish day school world. Our Canadian public education system has been more shielded from the advocacy of the school choice movement because of different societal and political realities, different teachers' unions, and different models of government and school board oversight. Nonetheless, the times, they are a-changing, with the numbers speaking for themselves. Independent school enrollments in elementary and secondary schools in Canada has increased by more than 21% in the past 10 years, when during the same time, enrollment in public elementary and secondary schools in the country rose by less than 2%. In Ontario, the province educating more students than any other, the numbers are even more striking. Over the past 10 years, StatCan data showed a 34% increase in students attending independent schools, while over the same period, public school enrollments in Ontario declined by more than 2%. No matter which way you look at it, parents are voting with their feet. Public education is so unpopular in this country that parents are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars annually for the privilege of opting out of it. My question is whether opting out of the public system ought to be a privilege reserved for those who can afford to do so. Most are well versed in the historic arguments regarding school choice. Those in favor argue that enabling parents to choose the best school and educational content for their children is a logical expression of the ancient principle of teachers acting in loco parentis, a Latin phrase, which in this context means teachers acting on behalf of parents, in loco parentis. An alternate, more practical argument is that competition between schools for enrolling students produces better accountability and more innovation in education. It produces more value for the money that a public education monopoly is hard-pressed to match. Greater choice and innovation can also help counter the influence of education bureaucracies and teachers' unions, which some view with suspicion. Those opposed to school choice typically argue that a single public education system provides greater equality for all students and helps to overcome class, religious, and other social distinctions. Some believe a public education system in which all students learn the same necessary things is essential to creating good citizens who are able to contribute to democracy. They would further argue that it ensures no child is left behind and all are included. I don't think it would surprise any of you to discover that I am not a neutral observer to this debate. I was raised in a Jewish community that valued Jewish day school education, and as a parent, I choose that same kind of schooling for my children, and with 4 kids, I pay a lot for it. I believe very strongly that a religious education in school is the best tool that I have at my disposal for instilling Jewish identity in my children and ensuring Jewish continuity. And I believe that it is my right as a Canadian parent to educate my children the way I want to. And I believe that it is unacceptable that in our province, Catholic education is fully funded to the exclusion of all other religious groups. But I also believe that Ontario and Canada needs a strong public education system with schools that educate students to contribute to the common good in various different ways. We should all want that. And we should all be concerned, even alarmed, that so many parents feel that our public education system is not meeting their needs. What is going on here? Has the quality of an Ontario public school education declined so radically in the past few years? I tried researching an answer to this question myself, but found all sorts of data in many different places and different answers depending on who you ask. Some reveal academic declines, others reveal progress, others say it's been stable. It actually seems more likely to me that it's not the schools that are changing, but Canada. Canada today is perhaps the most ethno-culturally and religiously diverse democracy in the world. We are a country that is a salad bowl of different identities and backgrounds, and becoming ever more so. While there are many values we share in common, we are polarized in our politics, in our social views, and in our philosophies on the appropriate reach of government. In this societal context, the idea of a one-size-fits-all educational model is bound to meet resistance. Today, we are seeing many manifestations of that resistance across the province, particularly in debates about the extent to which the new woke ideology ought to be included in current pedagogy. I definitely do not want to engage in that debate now, but I do think that we should recognize that parents who oppose their children being exposed to critical race theory, to new theories of sexual orientation and gender, and to new, very cynical narratives of Canadian history, are not necessarily ignorant or homophobic or racist. Just as those in favor are not pedophiles. They are speaking out for the value of in loco parentis. They just want to teach their children in the manner they feel is right for them. And this is what is breaking apart the public education system. So last week, the police had to be called in as a pride flag debate erupted at the York Region Catholic School Board. And the Premier had to intervene this week when 2 Ontario school boards, large school boards, banned uniformed police officers from taking part in school career day. And at York Mills Collegiate, just down the street from here, students walked out in protest last month when they were forced to attend a drag queen show at their school assembly. In our diverse and heterogeneous country, one-size-fits-all solutions for public education will become increasingly difficult to sustain and increasingly inappropriate for the needs of our children and their parents. The philosophy explicitly tweeted out last November by the National Education Association, representing 3 million American teachers. Let me quote their tweet to you. "Educators love their students and know better than anyone what they need to learn and to thrive." End quote. The very antithesis of in loco parentis. And I believe that it is this kind of indoctrination, more than anything else, that has frightened so many parents and children away from our public schools. Consider that we in the Jewish community have a tremendous opportunity to partner with parents across the province in the rethinking of public education. We ought to support every effort to fund Jewish day schools, including the recent lawsuit being brought against the province. And I'm so happy we have some of our own Beth Tikvah members taking the lead on that fight. But we should also set our sights bigger towards public funding for our schools and for all the diverse educational institutions that have been established, which correspond to the diverse preferences of the people who live here. We need to think of all schools, religious and secular, Catholic and public, and independent. They're all public schools because they contribute to the public good, to the development of a next generation of workers, neighbors, and voters with whom we will live and on whom we will depend to build a flourishing society. No parent should be forced to compromise their values or their finances just to achieve a meaningful expression of their rights to educate their children in the way they deem appropriate. Lehazhir gedolim al haktanim. Rashi's language could not be clearer. Be very careful, you adults. There is nothing more important for the future of our faith, for the future of our society, than how we choose to educate our children. It is the most important investment we can make. And I hope and pray that we will take this issue as seriously as God takes it in the Torah, and that we will be led in this path, on a path of righteousness and prosperity. Shabbat Shalom.